Intimidating, stressful, overwhelming, and confusing? These are all words that I've had friends and family members use when talking about planning a trip to Disneyland recently. And I get it. Things have changed over the past few years at Disneyland, and they seem to keep changing. From park reservations to saving time in line, this video is my ultimate guide to the Disneyland Resort for 2024. And by the end of this video, instead of feeling intimidated and confused, you can get back to being excited for a magical vacation. So let's dive in. To start this Disneyland Resort 2024 planning guide, let's first talk about what new offerings are coming to the Disneyland Resort in 2024, including the seasonal events and celebrations. Then we'll dive into tips that will help you save time in line, details about park reservations, food recommendations, and so much more. This is the first year Disneyland has released a calendar at the start of the year saying all the dates for the upcoming events. So I'm excited they've released that information so people can plan their vacations better. To kick off the new year, you can celebrate Lunar New Year at Disney California Adventure Park from January 23rd to February 18th. This is a tribute to Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean traditions, with Asian-inspired food and beverages and Mushu leading Mulan's Lunar New Year procession, as Disney celebrates the Year of the Dragon. At Disneyland Park from January 8th to March 21st and April 15th to April 25th, Mickey's Mixed Magic returns to Disneyland. This is a projection show to end each night, and on weekends they add fireworks. One thing to keep in mind about the nighttime spectaculars and fireworks at Disneyland is that Disneyland does not have fireworks every night like Walt Disney World. During the spring break season, the summer months, and also during the holidays, Disneyland will often have fireworks every night, but during what some call the off-season, Disneyland only has the fireworks on weekends and holidays. So on weeknights they do a projection show instead of fireworks. Speaking of nighttime entertainment, World of Color 1 will be closed for refurbishment from January 8th through February 29th, 2024, but is currently scheduled to return on March 1st. When World of Color 1 does return, to get in the viewing area, you can't just walk up, you must join the virtual queue. This is free, but it has to be done using the Disneyland app. To do that, you need to have a valid ticket and theme park reservation for that same day. Make sure you have linked the tickets of everyone in your group or party in the app. That way you will be able to make sure everyone has access to the show. 15 minutes before the virtual queue opens, you will be able to confirm your party on the app by using the Confirm Your Party button. Since the queue opens up at noon, you can begin doing this at 11:45. To access the virtual queue, guests must have entered Disney California Adventure Park with a One Park ticket, or a Park Hopper ticket, or Disneyland Park with a Park Hopper ticket prior to noon. I recommend setting an alarm on your phone to remind you 10 to 15 minutes before noon that you will need to get ready to jump on the app because the queue fills up in a minute or two, and it's easy to miss that moment if you're having a lot of fun in the parks. On the Disneyland app, tap the Virtual Queue tab, select Virtual Queue, and select Disney California Adventure Park. Make sure you confirm your party, and starting a few seconds before the clock turns to noon, begin to pull down on the page to refresh it, or tap the refresh button. When the queue opens up, a Join button will appear. If you are successful, you will end up on the Congratulations page, telling you what time the show will be. You don't get to pick which show, it's first come first serve. And you also won't know which viewing area you are in until later that evening. Guests with a virtual queue selection will receive a notification through the Disneyland app to enter the viewing area via one of the two marked entrances, either blue or yellow, approximately 45 minutes before the show begins. If the virtual queue has reached capacity, you can visit the Paradise Bay viewing area 30 to 45 minutes before showtime to check with the cast member for walk-up viewing options. Sometimes, especially if there are two showings during the night, they might have walk-up viewing options, especially for that second show. The other option, if you're feeling extra classy, is to get access to the viewing area with the World of Color dining package, which is standing area only, or the World of Color dessert party, which is one of the only ways most guests can watch the show in a seated area. I don't want to spend too much time on these details, but I break it all down in a video I will link in the description down below talking about the virtual queue and the dessert party options. At Disneyland, the Magic Happens Parade will return February 2nd. This parade usually happens twice a day and is very fun, with both a number of classic Disney characters and some more rare ones. Keep in mind, parades are popular at Disneyland, so if you want a good spot, I recommend keeping an eye on the parade route about an hour before the parade starts and start to find your spot if you see crowds gathering. And one of my favorite fireworks shows that Disneyland has ever done, Wondrous Journey, returns for a special presentation March 22nd through April 14th. From March 1st to April 22nd, there will be the return of the Disney California Adventure Food and Wine Festival. During this time, they have a number of booths set up where you can purchase food and beverage items. They also have special cooking demonstrations, and you can count on plenty of family fun entertainment. Plus, Soarin' Over the World becomes Soarin' Over California for a limited time during this festival. For Star Wars fans, Season of the Force is coming to Disneyland from April 5th to June 2nd. That means Space Mountain will become Hyperspace Mountain, and they will also have specially themed food, beverages, merchandise, and more. You will also be able to experience new adventures aboard Star Tours. The adventure continues. And if you are back in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they will have specially themed Star Wars music during the fireworks. That's a new enhancement they've never done before, and I'm very excited about it. Also very big news, beginning May 24th, Fantasmic The Nighttime Spectacular will return to the Rivers of America in Disneyland. Disney has promised new special effects, a thrilling new battle scene between Sorcerer Mickey and Maleficent, plus the return of the iconic Peter Pan scene. I'm so excited for the Peter Pan scene to come back. When they made changes a few years back, I really liked the updates to Fantasmic, except for the change to the Pirates of the Caribbean scene from Peter Pan. So I'm excited to have that Peter Pan scene back. And trust me, Disneyland fans are going to go crazy for this. So plan accordingly and get your imagination ready for May 24th. Starting in late spring and going throughout much of the summer, Pixar Fest returns to the Disneyland Resort from April 26th through August 4th, 2024. This will bring together plenty of fun Pixar additions to the park, including colorful decor, special merchandise, and food. Disney says, this festival of friendship is highlighted by heartwarming entertainment featuring Pixar stories. An all-new daytime parade, Better Together, a Pixar Pals celebration, will debut at Disney California Adventure Park. And at Disneyland Park, the emotional Together Forever, a Pixar Nighttime Spectacular, returns with some all-new scenes. During the celebration, you may encounter new characters such as Amber and Wade from Elemental, Red Panda from Turning Red, and more." End quote. In the past, the Together Forever Fireworks Spectacular has included Buzz Lightyear and the house from Up flying high above Sleeping Beauty Castle. Disney promises more details will be released as it gets closer, so when Disney releases more information, I'll put together another video with all the details. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that, especially if you're planning to visit during the April to August timeframe. Halloween time will return to the Disneyland Resort and start earlier than ever, August 23rd to October 31st. This is always a great time to visit the park with special decorations, characters in costume, and some fun attraction overlays, plus the special separate ticketed Oogie Boogie Bash. We know in the past few years those tickets to Oogie Boogie Bash have gone really fast, so hopefully having a longer celebration will mean they're adding a few additional nights to the party, so hopefully there will be a better chance to get access to that party, because it really is a lot of fun. And my favorite time of the year, the holidays at the Disneyland Resort. They're going to return beginning November 15th, and they typically go into the first week of January. Disney hasn't released all the details, but you can count on plenty of decorations, holiday spectaculars, like the Fireworks Spectacular Believe in Holiday Magic, and World of Color Season of Light, plus Disney Festival of Holidays at Disney California Adventure Park, along with seasonal overlays of classic attractions like the Haunted Mansion. Speaking of the Haunted Mansion, the surrounding area will be getting some updates and additional theming, and the Haunted Mansion is currently scheduled to close on January 22nd, and Disney hasn't released the reopening date yet. Some are thinking these updates could cause the mansion to be closed for a bit into 2024, so if you're planning a trip, you'll want to keep an eye on Disneyland's refurbishment calendar to set your expectations appropriately. Right next to the Haunted Mansion is the attraction formerly known as Splash Mountain, which is being transformed into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is scheduled to open in late 2024. While Disney hasn't given us an official date yet, a November timeframe seems likely. The Disneyland Christmas season is beginning a little bit later than normal on November 15th, so that time between Halloween and Christmas seems like it would be a great time to introduce the world to an all-new attraction. We already know and love the layout of this attraction and the thrills you can experience, but we have some more details on what you'll find inside the attraction. Disney has promised dozens of entirely new audio animatronic figures. Adorable critters with incredible talent, bringing the diverse musical flavors found in New Orleans. New original music alongside favorite tunes from the film. The alluring scent of beignets being prepared will be part of the attraction queue. And familiar faces from the film such as Princess Tiana, Prince Naveen, Mama Odie, Louis, Charlotte, Big Daddy, the King and Queen of Maldona, and Prince Ralphie. If these new animatronics are on the same level of what we've recently been seeing out of Tokyo Disneyland with the Beauty and the Beast attraction and Hong Kong Disneyland with the Frozen attraction, we have a lot to look forward to. When Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens, I think it will be highly likely that they'll be using a virtual queue because it's going to be very popular, so I'll be sure and create a new video giving all the details when Disney releases more. Some other recently opened attractions and things to look forward to on your next trip include the Paradise Pier Hotel officially becomes the Pixar Place Hotel on January 30th, 2024. Disney says this is the first fully Pixar-themed hotel in the United States. The 15-story hotel overlooking Disney California Adventure Park will offer Pixar-themed guest rooms, new dining featuring Great Maple Restaurant, a rooftop pool area, play court, and more. End quote. And Disneyland also recently opened the walkthrough attraction, the Adventureland Treehouse, taking over where Tarzan's treehouse used to be. So that's what's happening in 2024. Now let's talk about getting into the park, saving time, and making the most of your visit. At this time, and Disneyland has not announced otherwise, park reservations are still required to enter the parks. If you haven't been to Disneyland in a few years, this is a new requirement. So keep in mind you can't just show up with tickets and plan to get in. If you have a single-day ticket, park hopper ticket, or a magic key, you need to check the park reservation availability, and then make reservations through the Disneyland app or website. Guests with park hopper tickets can hop to the other park each day starting at 11 a.m. So make sure you know where you want to begin your day if you want to start with a specific attraction or have breakfast in a specific park. Now let's talk about some of the time-saving things at Disneyland, but also some things that are going to cost you a little bit more than they did in the past. First, starting out with Disney Genie Plus. What is Disney Genie Plus if you haven't been for a while? It is what kind of replaced Fastpass, but it is a paid option. So no longer are there free Fast Passes that you can get like you used to, where you'd be able to either get a paper Fast Pass, or if you were willing to pay a little bit more for Max Pass to have that on your app. Now, if you want to have that experience where you're able to make reservations for certain attractions, you need to buy Disney Genie Plus. You can choose to buy this for one day of your visit, you can choose to buy it for all days of your visit, but you do have to pay for it individually each day. The starting price for Disney Genie Plus is $30 a day per person, and during extra busy times that price can go up. I'm going to put on the screen here a list of the attractions in Disneyland and also California Adventure that have access to the Lightning Lane, which Disney Genie Plus gives you access to. As you can see, a lot of the big name attractions are on here, so it's definitely helpful to have a reduced wait at a number of these attractions. With Disney Genie Plus, you can make one reservation at a time. Then after 120 minutes, you can make another reservation, or if you've already used your current reservation, you can make another one. Keep in mind that you can stack these later into the day. For example, if you get Space Mountain first thing when you walk into the park, but it's not for several hours like until noon, after 120 minutes, you'll be able to make another reservation, for example, for Haunted Mansion at 11:30. And so then you'll be able to go on Haunted Mansion and Space Mountain within the same hour. You'll notice that two big name attractions aren't included in the Disney Genie Plus list here, and that is because they have what is called the individual Lightning Lane. That means if you want to go on this attraction, you need to pay individually for each person to be able to skip the line. Otherwise, you'll need to wait in the standby line. Those attractions are over at Disneyland, Star Wars, Rise of the Resistance, and over at California Adventure, Radiator Springs Racers. Those individual Lightning Lane prices can vary from $7 to $18, for example, for Radiator Springs Racers. Keep in mind, you do not need to get Disney Genie Plus to see any of the attractions at Disneyland. You can still get on all the attractions you want to if you're willing to wait in the line. But keep in mind, you will be waiting in longer lines. Sometimes you could be waiting an hour or more for an attraction, when those who have Disney Genie Plus could be waiting 10 minutes. So you have to ask yourself the question, how much is that saved time mean to your family? Depending on your situation and the size of your group, the thought of paying $30 more per person might seem overwhelming. Some things to keep in mind is maybe saving that time is going to be worth it, but maybe that means you're not going to be returning to Disneyland quite as soon. If this is a once every 4 years or 5 years trip, I definitely would highly recommend you using Disney Genie Plus, factoring in those costs, knowing you won't be back a lot. But if you are visiting on a yearly basis, maybe this isn't something you need to invest in. One thing I would encourage you to think about is you do get included all the photos you take on attractions and by the PhotoPass photographers when you get Disney Genie Plus. So it might be worth it for just one member of the party to get that so you can get all those photos that are taken of your group or family during that day. I wish I could say that Disney Genie Plus is a waste and you don't need it at all because the lines won't be long and you'll be able to have a totally great time without it. But let's face it, the lines can get pretty long. So it might be the case that you want to use it maybe one day of your trip. And so maybe plan for which day you think is going to be the busiest. And on that day, make sure you purchase it and have a great time with it. Maybe instead of having a 3-day trip, maybe you have a 2-day trip, but you're using Disney Genie Plus so you're getting to hit a lot more attractions and a lot less time in line. Figure out what works for your group, but keep in mind it is going to be a benefit to you, your family, your friends, whoever you're traveling with. If you want to see my experience of a full day of using Disney Genie Plus, I'm going to put a link down in the description. And throughout the year, if there are any updates or changes to the Disney Genie Plus system, I will add a new video link there to give you all the details. Now let's talk a little bit more about making the most of your day, whether or not you buy Disney Genie Plus. If you really want to make the most of your day, you need to have a game plan. So I suggest arriving at least 30 minutes before the park opens. That way you will be waiting in line when they start to let guests into the park, and they let you up to a certain point in the park, and then they do what they call rope drop, where they will literally drop a rope and let everyone walk to that first attraction that they want to see. So it's important for you at that point to know what attraction you do want to see. So for example, if you are over at Disneyland, maybe it's some of the Fantasyland attractions that you want to see the most, or maybe you want to try for Rise of the Resistance, but you got to keep in mind that not everything is always open right when the park opens. Ideally it would be, but sometimes whether the attraction is having a little problem or whether they don't have it ready yet, you just need to be ready to be flexible in your plan. But I suggest heading for some of the attractions that you know are going to be busier later in the day, whether that might be Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain, Rise of the Resistance, or over at California Adventure. Definitely, if you're at the front of that rope drop group, head for Radiator Springs, or if that seems too busy or they don't have that attraction open, there's other options like Toy Story Midway Mania, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and Web Slingers over at Avengers Campus. I know this is a ton of information, so if you want to learn a lot more about these tips and tricks to save more time when you're in the parks, I have a video that is basically a masterclass on saving time and money, and I'm going to link it down in the description below. So definitely check that one out because I go through all the different scenarios and how to make the most of your day so you're not just waiting all day in line. Now let's talk about one of my favorite parts of Disney parks. It's the food. So there's a variety of different types of food offered at the Disneyland Resort, and way too often I hear people saying, oh, I don't eat in the parks, it's just like burgers and fries and stuff, and I'm not into that, so I want to save money. No, there are lots of different options, and over the past few years, Disneyland has really become a destination for foodies because they actually have really upped their game on some of the delicious things they offer. So yes, you can still find hot dogs and burgers and fries, but there are also really great options. So I'm just going to lay out the big picture here. So there are table service restaurants, and these are the more classy, more expensive ones, where you're going to be having a server come to your table, take your order. Of course, you're having to pay them a tip, and it's going to be more expensive, but these are the really nice restaurants. So over in Disneyland, a good example of this is Blue Bayou. Over at California Adventure, we have the Carthay Circle Theater restaurant, which is very, very classy. Also over at Disneyland, just a step below the Blue Bayou, but still really fun, is Cafe Orleans. So those are some good options if you want the more classy table service options. Now let's talk about some of the quick service or casual dining options. For these quick service and casual dining options, you are not actually going to have a server coming to you. Instead, you will be waiting in line, ordering your food, and then taking it to your table. Some examples of this over at Disneyland, the Plaza Inn is where you can get a delicious chicken dinner that's around $20. In New Orleans Square, they've recently opened Tiana's Palace for some great New Orleans food. Rancho del Zocalo over in Frontierland, which has great Mexican food. And back in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you'll find Docking Bay 7. So those are some examples of some of the quick service options you can get. They are all very delicious and usually about $15 to $20 per meal. Over at California Adventure, there is options like Flo's V8 Cafe and the Pim Test Kitchen. Once again, about $15 to $20 per meal for these, but very delicious. Of course, throughout the parks, you can find outdoor vending locations where you can find hot dogs, churros, all different treats like that. And lastly, if you want to be spending a little bit more money but having an excellent experience, there's 4 character dining locations currently. There is, in Disneyland itself, breakfast with Minnie and friends at the Plaza Inn each morning. Over at Storytellers Cafe at the Grand Californian Hotel, they have Mickey's Tales of Adventure, which is a great buffet breakfast, and they also offer a buffet lunch sometimes that include the characters. And over at Goofy's Kitchen at the Disneyland Hotel, they have both breakfast and dinner with the characters, which is a lot of fun. Also over at the Grand Californian Hotel, on certain days in the Napa Rose, they have a Princess Breakfast Adventure, which is the most expensive of all, but the most personalized and classy experience you'll have when it comes to character dining. Once again, I'm zooming through this information, but if you want a more in-depth look at these different types of restaurants and what they offer, I have a video that's dedicated to all of this where I kind of lay out the prices and the different options they have at these restaurants. But just high level, if you want to know what a perfect day for me looks like when it comes to food at Disneyland, I usually like to start out at the Jolly Holiday Bakery after going on a few attractions, getting a cinnamon roll there or some other kind of pastry there, then have a later lunch at Cafe Orleans, maybe 1 or 2, where I can have the Monte Cristo sandwich, which is so delicious. And then maybe 7:30 p.m., when the dinner crowd has died down a little bit, I like to go to Plaza Inn and get that delicious chicken dinner. So that is just what one day at Disneyland will look like for me if I could only pick out one restaurant for each meal. The last thing I will say is if you want to make sure your day ends on a sweet note, I highly recommend making the time to see those nighttime spectaculars. Whether you are able to see Fantasmic or the fireworks over at Disneyland, or World of Color at California Adventure, we'll always refer to the nighttime entertainment as the Kiss Goodnight, and it really is a perfect way to end your day. So definitely make the time to see those shows. I know it can seem overwhelming at times because of the crowds, or it might seem like you're having to wait a while to see these shows, but they really are worth it. Disneyland does an excellent job. I know that was a ton of information. Hopefully you found it helpful. In the comments below, I would love to hear your tips and tricks for making the most of your Disneyland trip, and if you still have questions about how to make the most of your day, I would love to hear those questions too, so definitely put those down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all again real soon.